Hey everybody, Dave Whitmarsh, Whitmarsh Consulting Group. We're here with Robert Brown for I guess the third last session of the day. So hopefully for the troopers that have been making it through the day, they've got treated to some good stuff. So this is going to be a little bit of a different format. So we're going to Robert and I are going to have some conversation, share a bit of deck, and do a bit of a demo. And the topic was, no, forgive me, but surveys are old school. Here's a new and innovative way to gather some of that information. Sorry for the paraphrase there, but and Robert just pulling up a deck, and once we do that, we'll get going. But I should say that I've been working with Robert for a few months now, and have had some really good success and interest on the simplicity of his product. Well, it's from a user standpoint, it's complicated in the back end, but it makes aggregating and getting some data out of organizations, and so you can uncover some key issues in organizations and build plans around them. So looking forward to seeing where this goes.
Yeah, excited to be here and share with everybody today. And let me just pop up, see if we can get the screen share going here, and we'll be ready to roll. Let me share this with you. And from here. Okay. All right. Tell me when this pops up for you there.
Got it.
All right. Yeah, what we wanted to talk about today was, surrounding surveys and kind of that old school methodology. I've had a lot of conversations with different organizations over the last few weeks. And I think everybody's starting to recognize is that, the traditional survey approach, there's just a lot lacking there. And we'll kind of go through that. But there's got to be a different way, because especially right now, with everything that's going on, the insight that we need, the ability to gather insights and more insights from our people than ever before, because there's so much change going on within our organizations. Well, how can we gather these insights? How do we get the data we need? And that's where, my background is a little bit I've always been in executive positions within organizations. And my last company I led as a CEO for many years. And what I recognized is that I had amazing data when it came to our financials, sales reports, inventory, everything. But the people are at the heart of your business, and they're the ones that are generating all of those results. And what I was missing was the ability to truly understand our people and to get any type of real-time metrics. Think about what metrics do you have surrounding your people today? Most of you probably have like churn rates, hire rates, percentages. Now you're probably tracking, the types of, people that you have within the organization and demographics and everything like that. But what do you know about them on a day-to-day basis and about the experience that they're having? And that's been the biggest struggle, is because that traditional survey process, if you go through that, first you got to figure out how to gather and create a survey, right? And figure out what questions you want to ask, and then ask them in the right way and make sure you're deploying those right. And then you got to figure out how you're going to ask them. And then you got to get everybody on board. And then you launch this survey. Well, then you try to pull back the information. And oftentimes what happens is I hear people tell me, like I had a company just the other day say, oh yeah, we just completed our survey and got the results back. Well, they had actually completed it and sent out the survey almost 6 months ago. And then it took them several months, and essentially, everybody, all their leaders and everything, trying to get people to fill it out so that they could have some level of participation. And then once they finally got the results, well, now they're gathering this, and we're like, oh yeah, we want to start taking a look at this to see what we need to do. Well, now they're solving a problem that was from 6 months ago. And so that's really the problem that we're going to focus on today is how do we solve this whole process? Because the other part, if you continue that, and I don't want to, I don't want to take this too far, but essentially, if you continue that, where an organization now says, okay, well, we gathered the insight, what you get in a survey is simply high level insight. Your people are quickly filling them out, not really engaged, not really seeing much value. So they quickly fill it out to try to get through it. And so you don't get a lot of great insights. So what then do you have to do? Well, you try to pick out and get enough that you're like, oh, well, it looks like these topics are important, or things are, this was mentioned 6 times. As we read every comment, this was mentioned 6 times. So maybe that's something we should figure out. And then you take that and you create focus groups. Well, why did you create a focus group? Well, it's because you didn't get enough insight and information from people because you didn't actually have a conversation with them yet. Right? We just asked them a one-sided question. And so now we have to actually have a conversation with somebody to listen to their insight and to gather that insight. And that's where then we do focus groups. But now, frankly, we're getting a very small subset, 10, 15 people in a room. And we're getting a very small subset. And that's now trying to drive these. So bottom line, just if you walk through the whole survey process, and actually think about what you're really doing, I think most people have recognized, like, why are we doing this? This is crazy. We're not getting the insight we need. We're not getting it in the time we need. How can we change this? How can we modify this? Because frankly, this is an old school methodology. It was better than nothing, but it came out in, I think some of the first surveys, some of the very first surveys were a long time ago, but they really got started back in kind of the 70s, 80s, 90s, is when people started doing more of this. And then in the early 2000s, it was like, oh, well, that annual engagement survey, that's what we do to learn about our people. So once a year, we're going to ask a whole bunch of questions, gather some insights, maybe 6 to 8 months later, try to take some sort of action surrounding it. And frankly, by the time most organizations get there, they lose steam on it. Things have changed. They're not even sure if they're solving the right problems anymore. And oftentimes most organizations don't take action on it. And then that's when it becomes really the disengagement survey.
Yeah, I was just going to touch on that, Robert. If think about it from the employee standpoint, right? They hate the process, more than anybody, right? And then they just, if they're not listened to, or their feedback isn't heard, or that communications isn't shared out, then it does more harm than good.
Yeah, I saw a great quote because I get asked this question all the time. And the quote was, I'm trying to remember where I saw it so I can give credit to who said it, but it was essentially that, look, people don't get tired of providing feedback, or they don't get survey fatigue. What they really get is lack of action fatigue.
Right.
And what that really obviously is so true is that what we see is that people don't get tired of providing feedback. They want to. They want their jobs to be better and the problems that they're facing to be solved just as much as the organization does. The strange thing is that as an organization, why don't we literally recognize that and do a better job of listening to where the problems actually are? Instead of our insights, and this is one of the biggest struggles, is because many organizations, traditional organizations, have been very top down. And so when people are making choices and decisions at the top without the insight and the ability to tie in and understand the experience of what's happening, that's when you get this disconnect. And that's when they're like, oh, well, yeah, they're trying to solve problems we don't even have. My real problem is this, and I wish somebody would solve this one. Mm-hmm. And that's where, I've kind of highlighted into these 5 cases where, look, timing's wrong about surveys. They're rearward thinking. We're solving problems from 6 months or 8 months, 12 months ago. We're asking in the methodology. That's another one where typically most of these are done through email. And if you look at the response rates that most people get, I was talking to another company, they're like, oh yeah, we have 2,500 employees, we got a 3% response rate. So now they're trying to drive actions in the organization based on a 3% response rate. And that's because it went out via email. Nobody pays attention to that, right? In a lot of organizations, people within the organization don't even have emails. You know, I've been talking to some different grocery store chains and things like that where, look, they don't even have corporate emails for everybody. And so they've always got limited insight and feedback. And then, of course, it's a one-sided tool. So if I'm just asking a question, I don't have a way to actually engage. And then thus we create the, you know, the focus groups and all that type of thing. So the bottom line is that what we're trying to obviously share here today is that there's got to be a new approach, right? And that's why we created the product that I'm going to show you today. Is I wanted to help organizations to get the people data that they need, because I truly believe that people are your most valuable asset. And every business is in business to succeed. Now, that success may be financial success, that may be, you know, the success of our purpose or whatever it may be. But the best way to get those results that you're looking for is to create an organization where your people are fully engaged. We talk about engagement all the time. Well, why is that important? Because when people are engaged and they actively are working to try to help your organization grow and be better versus just fulfilling a seat on the bus, they're actually engaged, helping you to learn and innovate and grow and provide amazing customer success to your clients and all of that. That only comes when somebody loves the place that they work. When we create an experience, and I love to call it the human experience at work, when we can create that experience, then that's where we drive all of those results. But in order to create that, you have to create a workplace experience that engages and creates that engagement with your people. So we want great results. We need an engaged workforce. In order to do that, bottom line, it's not rocket science, it's people science. But we just need to create an environment and a place where our people feel like they want to give their whole selves. I love this company. I love working here because they value me. I feel supported. I feel heard. I feel listened to. I feel all of these different things, right? And when you can get to that, that's when you can create that magic. Well, that then comes from actions, their behaviors, what they actually do. So we have to focus, if you step all the way down, what we really need to know and understand in order to create that workplace experience is we have to understand the experience they're having today. What is their work life like on a day-to-day basis? What's working? What's not? What's their experience? You know, so many organizations are trying to understand like mental health. Well, how do we figure that out? We could certainly, you know, try to take some actions and we can come up with a nice little program and do some training and kind of throw a dart at the dartboard and hope that something maybe sticks. But isn't there a better way? Isn't there a better way for DE&I? So many organizations are focused on that right now. Yes, you're looking at your hiring practices and how you do all of those things, but what's the experience that people are having? What's the experience by different ethnicity? How do they see and how is the organization showing up for them? The problem is there's all these questions. And once you know those things, you're able in a perfect place and a position to be able to help address this and solve them. But it's the insight and the feedback that you need in order to be able to do this. And that's the big problem is how do you get live, real-time, actionable insight from your people on a daily basis? How do you do that? Well, that's why we're here today. We're going to show you. So let me hop out of this and bring up another screen here for you guys. Let's move this onto my screen here. So I want to show you the platform that we created. So Illumo is a human analytics organization. And our purpose is to drive actionable insights to people leaders so that you can make the right choices and decisions to lead your company. The way that we did that is we took and pretty much just threw out the whole survey process, because its intent is good. What you're intending to do when you create a survey is listen, understand, get insight. It just wasn't very effective at actually doing that. So we looked at it and says, well, how often do we need it? And this is a funny thing, because you see a lot of organizations have gone away from, hey, look, the annual survey didn't work, so let's just do them more often. Let's do it quarterly, or let's do these little pulse surveys. And those are helpful because timing is one of those problems. But timing wasn't the only problem. And that's just one little teeny step in trying to correct that. What we recognized is that how often did I want feedback? What would be helpful? Well, realistically, if you get your wish, right, and you just, hey, grant me my wish, I'd like feedback every single day. I'd like to know and understand the experience my people are having within the organization every single day. So we created our platform to do that. Now, you're probably thinking, well, whoa, you're telling me you're asking questions every single day. Well, what we do is we ask a single question to each individual within the organization just once a week. That question we typically deliver, and we can do it in a lot of different ways through Slack or Teams or through a variety of ways. Frankly, the most effective that we have seen, we get the highest response rates on these because we didn't even design an app. What we did is we just literally send them a text like any of the other texts that they receive. So it's simple, it's easy, it's frictionless. They receive a text and it asks them about a unique aspect of their workplace experience every week. Now, some of those questions are scale-based, and those help us create the numbers and metrics that you'll see here today. And others are conversation starters. And I can't wait to share that part with you, because that's where the real magic of the platform lies.
Yeah. So Robert, I'm just going to jump in.
Oh, please. Sorry. I get all excited to get started. So.
I know. But when you talk about one text a week, and how do you get data over an entire organization that way? It's hard, right? So one thing that we should sort of point out here is if there's something like a pandemic or an issue that happens within an organization, fraud or your CEO gets busted, you can amplify different campaigns and change the frequencies to address the needs so that you can get these results and build a plan. It's not set that way. It's just set up that way because over the course of time, it's accurate. But in other use cases where you need to amplify it, you certainly can, right?
Yeah, absolutely. What we tried to do is just put it on autopilot for you, right? So that every single day we're gathering tidbits of insight and information to help lead and guide the organization. But of course, if you have instances or certain things that come up, you can supplement that with additional questions or polls or things like that I'll show you today. But what we try to do is literally make this plug and play. So let me show you kind of what that means. We worked with organizational psychologists to help us understand what is the human experience at work. What are those key touch points that everyone has with their organization? And what they helped us to do is create these human experience campaigns. So these are things surrounding like alignment, benefits, COVID, when COVID first came out, right? Now we have our return to work campaigns that most people are running. But underneath each one of these and all of these components, we're asking questions about the customer experience, about DE&I, right? The employee engagement, internal services, leadership, mental health, full life cycle. When somebody first joins your organization, they're not really prepared to start giving you insight about the experience they're having other than the onboarding and the training and the processes that you're going through. So we ask people for the first 60 days a set of questions surrounding those, and then drop them into the regular normal campaigns. Operational efficiency. This is one of our brand new campaigns. I love this campaign because it really helps to help you identify where you have waste in the organization, where things are working, where things are not. And we highlight all of those components. You'll see all the different types of categories. So each organization, what you do when you launch the platform is you identify which of these key areas do we feel like as an organization we need to listen and understand the most. And we start with those specific campaigns. Depending on the size of your organization, if you're a large organization, you could literally turn them all on. If you're a little bit smaller organization, you may choose, so that we get enough data to make sure that you don't turn on too many campaigns, because we don't want to ask 80 different topics if we only have 80 people in the company. So there's some things like that you walk through. But these are literally ready to plug and play. So for example, let me hop into Wellbeing here. Under our Wellbeing campaign, you're seeing that, hey, here's how we're trending over the last 30 days. Live, real-time, human analytics. Tracking it over the last 30 days, over the last year or more, depending on how long you're on the platform. Now you actually know, you can see the impact. One of the biggest struggles that I hear from people leaders all the time is, oh yeah, we're doing all of these different programs. But when I ask the question, well, how are you measuring that? Most of them say, well, we kind of see this, or we track engagement a little bit or whatever, but no, how are you measuring your actual impact of the things that you're doing surrounding, for example, DE&I? Most of them try to do like a before and after survey. They do a survey to try to get an understanding before and after, but what they don't know is how they're progressing all the way along. And they also don't know after that, did it stick? Did we make an impact? And so what this does is this literally gives you daily insight surrounding each of these campaigns. So under this, for example, under Wellbeing, we're measuring things like, growth, personal growth, and their psychological safety and their work-life balance. And do they feel connected and respected? Resilience is a new campaign metric that we just added. So we're measuring all of these. You can see that this organization is doing great with personal growth. People feel like this is awesome, and they feel psychologically safe within this organization. But down here, resilience, wow, they're actually 26 below, because we benchmark against other organizations of your same industry and size. But we can say, oh, look, we're struggling actually here within this area. This could be something that we may want to take a look at. So what we do then is we engage, we ask these questions, and we gather insight every single week. Those insights then provide these live real-time dashboards that allow us to see exactly where we're at. One of my favorite views is this one. This is one of our heat maps, where in the heat map, it identifies for you by team, by department, by location, any way that you want to sort the data. We can then slice it for you. And in here, what I'm seeing is, look, in this organization, their sales team is loving it. They're crushing it, right? Not uncommon. Many sales teams, as long as they're effective in selling, they're feeling really good about what's going on in the company. But down here, you'll notice that our creative services team is actually struggling. That's where we're struggling. But I love to see this, because when in our new hire, they're actually our highest rated department. So when we're hiring people into this organization, they're thrilled with the onboarding process and everything that we're doing, and so excited to be there. But over time, look at my team score at a 65 versus the sales team at a 97. Well, what the numbers now give you is the exact answer to what matters most and where should you be focusing your efforts. Because now, instead of just anecdotally, what I know about my organization, or what people say, or what I hear, or the interactions I have, Now we turn it into actual hard data. Now we can view and see actual numbers and pinpoint areas where we're doing great and we need to do more of that, and areas where we're really struggling and where we need to now improve. So this is the ultimate magic. So one is, look, now we've got these visual dashboards leading and guiding us to different areas, helping us identify where we need to spend and focus our efforts and our resources and our time, right? All of those components. But now what's the most important thing that we need to know? And that is, we need to know the why behind the numbers. And that's the real magic of the Illumo platform. Illumo is the only one to deliver live, real-time, daily, actionable insights. Because think about it, if we're asking one question a week, well, every single day we're asking about a fifth of your organization a question. Those questions are then providing, these are literal live updates. So I see the numbers and the trends and exactly where we are. But more importantly, what we learned, the biggest gap in surveys was the inability to actually have a conversation. I'll give you an example. So I saw this, I saw an answer come in on the platform the other day, and it says, hey, what's one of the biggest things that we could do to help improve your team and improve things within your team? And bottom line, it came back and it said, hey, communication. We're struggling with communication. Well, that was the response. So as a leader, I know that there's a problem with communication, but I don't know what it is. And without knowing what it is, I can't go solve that problem. So what you need is to be able to engage with that person. And that's why we created the engage side of the platform, where we literally engage with people in live conversations to listen and learn about the experience they're having at work, asking questions, receiving responses, going back and forth. And what I love is, if you look at this within the platform, these aren't short answers. These aren't just little quips like what you get. What we're seeing is complete engagement from this organization. And I want to show you real quickly back onto the home screen, because this is live. And we're seeing that this company's been on the platform for about a year. And they have 95% of their people engaging with the platform. People ask me all the time, if you're having questions go out every single week, don't people get tired of responding? And my answer is always the same. Well, of course they will, if you don't do anything about it. But if you actually show and engage with the conversation, so imagine taking a survey and you respond to a question and somebody then responds back to you about your answer. I was talking to another client the other day. She was like, yeah, after I picked myself up off the floor because I had responded to a question, and then somebody responded to me about my answer, asking me more insight and more details about my answer, I was just blown away. But then from there, now I had the ability to actually share with them what I was really talking about. And that's what we see is the power of the Illumo platform, is we engage. I like to say that we're conversations, not surveys. Because what we do is we help an organization to listen to their people actively in a back and forth conversation in this engage component. These are back and forth conversations, listening and learning to the experience that your people are having, so that we can have this conversation and understand at a deep level what's really happening with our people. Once you get to there, these types of conversations, back and forth conversations, this is where the power of the platform is. Because what you actually now get is that actionable insight that we need. That's what you really need in an organization, actionable insight. That's what a survey was supposed to give us. But what we found is the only way to truly get it is to have actual conversations. So these are anonymous conversations. They're protected. So I also get that question asked all the time. Well, are people comfortable sharing their thoughts or their opinions? And what you'll see is that based on, if we have a subset of 5, so I know that this is a female, for example. Well, the only reason I know that this is a female is because there's at least 5 females that are on this specific team that are also millennials. And so the system just drops off any of these tags if we don't have a large enough subset to maintain anonymity. But the power of this is mind-blowing. Just literally imagine gathering insight every single day from your people. Now, I've also heard this concern. That's too much. That's too much insight. How can we take action on everything they're saying every single day? Well, of course, you don't need to take action on everything they're saying every single day. But what this does is allows you to listen and learn, understand the trends, see, oh yeah, we have several people that are talking about this as an issue. We've been able to dive into that as a deeper level conversation back and forth. Now we really understand what's happening with this specific team. Now we know the training that we need to now provide to this leader or manager on this team, because the way that they're showing up is causing this, this, and this. Bottom line, you don't have to guess anymore. In fact, I say to organizations all the time, there's no need to guess, just ask. Now you have the ability to engage in those constant conversations, listening and learning, guiding your daily actions, and then you make those simple changes and adjustments. What I've seen it do for our clients is, instead of these massive, hey, we're going to roll out this huge initiative and try to get everybody on board and spend all this time and effort in this initiative that maybe lasts for so long and then just kind of dies off. Well, what people really want is they just want you to solve the problems they're having today. If they're having a trouble on their team with this specific thing, and you can go figure that out, work with the manager, help them get that solved and take action on it. That's why this company is seeing 95% of their people engage with them on a consistent basis, because they've shown that, they've demonstrated that what they say, the company takes action on, and we now are getting results. And that's the key. Sorry, David.
Yeah.
I keep going.
Yeah, absolutely, Robert. And to tell you the truth, you're a much better speaker than me, so I just let you go. But one of the things that, that every time I look at this, right, as I just think to myself all the time, how much money can you save by identifying some of the issues, right? And so, so often companies will go, okay, we're launching a training program and it's going to be for everybody that's, a grade 4 manager, and because we believe we have a retention problem or a leadership problem, and really those are completely unfounded, right? So I'm going to be a bit of a pest here, and I'm going to put you to the test. We've never done this, and I hope you don't curse me out later, but but let's.
I'm ready.
And okay, so and I challenge anybody that's listening to pipe in a question too. So let's say, as most organizations, there's a certain assumption that budgets are minimal, right? So we're going to highlight. Show me, if you can, pull up a company dashboard and show me what DEI is hot. So show me, where the obvious places that you might want to focus on a DEI effort based off of a good sized company. Is that possible?
Yeah, absolutely. So what's interesting is again, with DE&I, right? We need to look, and there's kind of 2 components I like to show organizations with DE&I. One is, are we doing the right proactive things, right? What are we doing that's aligning, and how do people feel about the organization and the efforts we're taking? And then on the back end of that are, hey, where are our risks and our possible issues and gaps? Where do we have discrimination that's being evidenced within our organization? Where do we have bullying that's going on within our organization? Does anybody ever even ask those questions? Well, we do. We ask those questions, and I'll show you. So this is part, when I talk about D&I, there's always two parts. The front, hey, do you feel like we're making this a priority? So let me hop into priority, for example. And I'll hop into this, into the metric itself. And we can see that this organization is doing great. They're 7 above the Illuma average. They're trending really well. They're getting great scores. There's responses coming back. Well, let me show you the questions that we're asking. We're asking questions like, hey, do you feel comfortable being yourself? Do you feel like we have an inclusive work environment? How satisfied are you with the importance that's given to inclusion here at this company, right? We're asking very direct questions, and then the organization can turn on or off any of these. These are preset, plug and play, ready to go for you. But of course, then you can customize, build your own questions, or turn any of ours on and off here. But what we're really doing is we're gathering insights and starting these conversations. These are conversations surrounding DE&I, having direct impact, conversations directly with your people. That's how you listen and actively learn about the experience. We're able to have these deep, trusted, very personal conversations with people surrounding their experience with DE&I within our organization. Not best practices, not what 50 other companies are doing, but what are our people experiencing? What is the experience that they're having at our organization? So I know what actions I need to take as a people leader.
Yeah.
That's where I think the difference is. So what we do is we deliver surrounding all of these. Let me go back. So under our DE&I campaigns, we have these default capabilities of like priority. Are we putting a priority on this? Are we, do you feel like your opinion matters? What impact is that having? Do you feel like this is leader led? And these are some of the front end questions about how we're asking and starting that conversation. Then on the back end piece, that's where it's under our risk mitigation campaign. And risk mitigation is where now we're proactively assessing things like even sexual harassment, discrimination. Is there discrimination happening within the organization? If so, where? What does it look like? How are people experiencing it? Please.
And I'm assuming, Robert, that you can narrow that down to the group of 5.
Absolutely. Yeah, because if I'm getting comments, there's 2 things. One is you have to protect anonymity, right? People have to feel that this is safe. And I always get this question too. Well, how do you get people to feel safe? Well, you create trust. Trust is earned. And so we work through how to demonstrate and build the trust of the platform as part of our process within organization. And I won't go into how we do all that today, but of course you have to earn their trust. But then as you do, and you start gathering these really powerful insights, well, we have to protect anonymity, but for the organization, we also need to know where that's coming from, what teams or departments were experiencing these things. So I'll give you an example. I had a client, they're in the hospitality space, and at one of their property locations, we received several reports very quickly in the platform. When we launched it, we received several reports that there was a maintenance person in a facility that was sexually harassing people in that facility. Well, they were blown away. They were like, well, why? We have all these processes, we do all this training, we do all of these different things so that people know how to report this. This has been going on a long time and no one has said anything. Well, why? The reason why they hadn't said anything is because it wasn't safe. They had to go talk to a manager. They had to go talk to somebody about this and share that experience, where in our platform, they could communicate it through text, which for that organization, again, they're one that doesn't have individual corporate emails for everybody. So text was, perfect way to communicate. But they were able to do that. Then we notified them of the issue. They went out and did their own investigation, found that to be true, and solved the issue there. So when you go, this is a long road back to tying this back to numbers and financial impact. Well, we potentially save that organization. I think the average sexual harassment lawsuit is just under $1 million. How much money did we save that organization by helping them identify this? Not only just from a lawsuit perspective, but the morale and everything that was going on within that facility and the churn rates that were going through the roof because of that. Well, now they identified the issue, and now it solves so many other different issues and problems. All they needed was a safe place for their people to communicate, and that's what we really provided there.
Right, and of course that has such a huge ripple effect on culture, engagement, trust, and and the. Well, I think it's you that actually has that expression with the low tide rises all.
Yeah, absolutely. Once you're able to find those things, and that's where, it just blows my mind that so many organizations, we struggle with so many things. And the reason we do is it's because it's what we don't know that's hurting us. It's what we don't know that's crushing our ability to grow. It's what they didn't know that was causing their retention issues and all kinds of organizational issues in that specific property location. It's what they didn't know that was hurting them. That's the same across not just sexual harassment, but that's the same thing across all of these. If you've got bullying going on within a department, if you're having issues within a specific team, well, that one thing that's going on is destroying all of the other things that you do well. Identifying those needles in the haystack, that's what we do. That's how we gather the insight, and that's why we gather it live. Because I want to solve problems that we're having today, not from 6 months ago.
Right. So I put you in the test, and sorry, but is there anybody on here that might be interested in chatting or having a comment of maybe a business issue that you've seen, and just run through a scenario here? If not, I have one in mind.
One of the others why we maybe wait, and if not, then we can continue here. But one of my other favorite components in the platform is our teams. Many of you are probably familiar with Google did an amazing amount of research and work in Project Aristotle, where they identified the core components of highly effective and high performing teams. And as part of that, they recognized that like psychological safety was a key component of that. And that's why a lot of organizations talk about it. But there's really a couple places that are some of the most critical impact. One is teams, and the other is a direct manager. So if I can find out again, when I go back over here to this report, and I can identify that, hey, I'm struggling and I've got low team scores on this team here. If I've got a low team score, well, that's an immediate red flag to me, because, you talk about predictive analytics. Well, we use these scores and the trends and the ways that scores are trending to help identify for an organization and predict, hey, we're starting to see a drop off in this team and your team scores are starting to drop. You're going to start losing people. And so our AI and analytics help identify these things for organizations. That's where the data really comes into play. But again, the most important thing that we do, of course, is the conversations, because that's where we listen and learn about the experience and we identify those gaps.
So I am going to, if I could, in 3 minutes, right? I want you to nail down how you can determine retention issues.
Yeah, absolutely. I'll go right back to here. One of the first places that we look, I think Gallup stated that 75% or 76%, something like that, of people leave a bad boss, not a bad company. So the experience, there's those two key places. One, my direct leader or manager, and two, my team. Those create the overwhelming majority of the experience. And so that's where we look at. And in fact, this organization, we've been working with them. And one of the amazing things is that you'll see this team score is still really low. But 30 days ago, this leadership score was equally as low. They've then provided some additional training, and it's making a huge impact. The leader scores are now starting to creep up. These team scores will now be the thing that follows it. So what we're really excited about is we identified this with this organization. They provided the training and resources that this leader and manager needed. And now we're excited over the next little bit to watch the remainder of these scores start to creep up, because we've already seen a big difference in the direct leadership. And now we expect to see that here. So that's where we would look at. And because we do it again via text, we get immediate results. We literally can launch the platform, and 48 hours later, this thing will light up and it will highlight for you exactly where your strengths and weaknesses are. And from there, I can tell you immediately, oh yeah, here's the team we need to focus on, or teams or locations. I have clients with, just 50, 60, 80 different locations, physical properties, office locations, and I can identify for them all the way across, stack rank them. Here's your top performing locations. Here's your top performing teams. Here's where your strengths are. Here's where your weaknesses are. So when it comes to retention, I can absolutely predict and help you know and understand where you need to focus your efforts to help solve these problems. But the most important thing is not, again, I love the numbers and the numbers are amazing. But the most important thing I do is I give you the why. And that comes through the conversations and our ability to listen. So another question I get all the time is, well, are we doing the responses? Are you doing them? And what we learned is that our teams, Alumo typically takes that responsibility. It doesn't preclude from you jumping in and being part of that, or engaging with your people directly from a leadership or manager's level, whoever you give administrative access to the platform. They can engage in the conversations as well. But we try to take the heavy lifting so that you can focus on the things that you're doing every day, and then we can deliver the guidance and the insight that comes from the data and the conversations. So that's one of the things that we try to make sure that we help. The other thing I wanted to show real quickly was polls and announcements, because you mentioned, David, about, hey, how do we just ask something quick? Well, it's funny. I saw on a statement from Google when they launched their people operations and kind of made this whole shift from traditional HR into a very data-driven approach to people and culture. Well, now they don't even change the paint in the break room without engaging people and getting feedback. You're sitting there thinking, well, why would you worry about that? It's just a paint color in a break room. It's the same thing that this organization, one of our most successful clients, has learned, is that by asking and engaging in the question, gathering that insight and that feedback, that is the perfect opportunity to gain their input, gain their alignment, gain their buy-in and their engagement in the process. Instead of things just happening, oh, well, yeah, here's this decision that somebody up on high in corporate made, and now we have to live with it. Here's the decision that we as a team made because we're all working together. That's the difference. When you create an engaged workforce, engaged workforces are driving innovation and change from the ground up. Disengaged workforces drive everything from the top down. And that's the gap, and that's the struggle. And that's why organizations are so focused on this. Going back to retaining and attracting talent, they're calling this, this year, the great redistribution. And that's for a purpose, because many people, as they've gone through COVID, are now looking for, hey, I'm not really aligned with this company. I want to find a workplace experience that I actually really love. I want to find something better. I'm not happy just existing. I want to find something where I can find a company that values who I am, what I do, and will help me to learn and grow. Organizations that aren't focused on that, creating that human experience at work, are going to really, really struggle over the next few years, because what we're seeing is that with younger generations, purpose, their need for feedback, frankly, they don't want, that whole survey process. Seriously, for the younger generations, you think they want to listen to a survey? No, they want instant feedback. They want instant connection. They want to listen and learn and grow. They need a tool like this. And that's why organizations are having to change and modify to try to really focus on creating this. Because frankly, without doing this, your competitors are going to be doing this. They're going to be focused on creating amazing workplaces and great experience. We're in the experience economy. And if you can focus on that and create that, then that's how you're going to succeed and thrive and grow and have the ability to grow and thrive. But without that, you're going to struggle. Because I was talking one more client where it's a service, and literally this organization is struggling with 300+% turnover in several departments. How do you grow a business like that? Unfortunately, it's become so painful for them. The cost of the turnover, the ability to try to just even deliver, they can't grow because they don't even have the people to provide the services that they do. And so they've recognized, and of course this is slapping them in the face, and that should have been pretty clear a little bit sooner, maybe. But what they've recognized is that we have to change this. And the only way to do it, anytime you're going to try to change something, you have to understand it. You have to have the insights you need to take the right actions, because solving problems is actually really easy when you know what the problem is at its root cause, where those things are coming from. And so we're now deploying our platform to help this organization listen, understand, hey, why are we losing so many people? What's the experience? What's the problem? Are they technology problems? Do they not have the resources they need? Do we have bad leadership in different areas that we need to help coach and address? What are the problems? What's the cause of this? Because right now they're running blind. And they have some thoughts about, oh, well, hey, we hear this, or this person said they left for that. Well, on an exit survey, how truthful do you think people really are? Especially if they're still at your organization. That's where we just have to change all this. And that's what we've done. So sorry.
All right, Robert. Yeah, I'm going to cut you off because we got another one coming up here. But you have an offer and you have 2 minutes to deliver it.
Thank you. Yeah, and I really appreciate it. Thanks, David, for giving me time to share this with you guys today. And sorry, I'm very passionate about this, as you can tell, because I love what we're doing for organizations. And that's why I want to help you in your organization as well. I will give you the Illumo platform completely for free. I'll give it to you for complimentary for 30 days. And what we can do is very quickly and easily, we'll launch the platform and we'll gather all of this insight and information. And then we'll sit down, because the data is great, but one of the best services that we provide as an organization is that we actually have strategic analytics advisors. And our advisors then will sit down with you and share with you, hey, here's exactly what we're seeing. Here's some things you're doing really well in your organization, and here's some gaps. And we will provide all of that completely for free to you, just to show and demonstrate the power of the platform. Because I know as people leaders, it can be difficult to go get approval for some new tool or solution without the data and the insight that backs up the value of that. So we want to give you the value. We want to help put you in that strategic seat to drive your organization forward. Imagine, as a people leader, walking into the meeting, it'll blow your mind when you walk in and start showing them the power of the platform, the dashboards, the live insights, the comments, the feedback, the insight that they've been starving for. Now we put you in that strategic position as a people leader to drive your business forward with data. And that's how you can do it. So we're excited to offer that to you and thrilled at the opportunity to share that with you, because bottom line, our purpose is people, and we're here to help you and your organization to grow and succeed and to thrive.
Perfect. Thank you, Robert. And your contact email details, I don't know if you have that on the slide or not, but if not, I'll make sure that you're CC'd in and have a opportunity to follow up with everybody involved. And if there's
yeah,
just
real quickly, I would say my email is just robert@alumo.com. So you can connect with me there and reach out and just say, hey, I'd like to take advantage of that complimentary free offer. And we would be happy to set that up for you.
Yeah, so what I might do, Robert, is I might include your Calendly link and see if anybody wants to connect with you and go over it in more detail. They can certainly do that. All right, but we have to roll. Thank you, everybody. Thank you, Robert.
Thanks, everybody.
All right, have fun, guys.